now we're very happy to welcome the Reverend Robert Yarnell.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you. I can seize your applause. Thank you. What a wonderful day. And you know, I do think you can hear a smile. That shared silence that we have, and I say this probably every time I come here, but it's unique in the services I attend that the community sits in silence. I say unique other than the Quaker meetings I attended as a child and in college and as a younger adult. In fact, it was at a Quaker meeting in the announcements afterwards that somebody said Arun Gandhi would be speaking at Unity of New York. And that one announcement got me here. So there's so many things like that. Life is full of those kind of miraculous moments and special days. Today is actually a special day in two different Abrahamic traditions. And the third one, as you'll hear in a bit, is coming right up. But the two are Easter today and Passover, which finishes today. And that doesn't happen every year, as you may know, with the lunar calendar. So it's rather special. And Easter, oops, here we go. Easter, Passover, oops. Just trying to do something, there we go. Easter, Passover, and other holidays are about overcoming adversity and not just surviving, but thriving afterwards. Imagine overcoming slavery or overcoming death itself. These holidays honor the adversity that precedes joy rather than seeing adversity as its obstacle. Whatever thoughts we have, whatever certainties we tell ourselves about doom and gloom are overcome with joy. Like ancient Israelites with Egyptian soldiers bearing down on them and only the Red Sea in front of them. Like the apostles after the crucifixion, our thoughts so often run negative because they're based in the past and in our limited perspective. Some higher power is at work and life is so much fuller than our normal thoughts allow, especially during adversity. Now, to be clear, our adversity, our hard times, our struggles are not fun, so we don't seek them out, but we can honor them as sacred parts of our story. Michael Laitman says, Passover is about salvation from the exile in Egypt. It describes the period of enslavement to our egoic desires, the growing feeling of bitterness we develop in that state, and the eventual exit from it after reaching an unbearable sensation that we have no strength to exit our egoistic desires, yet we feel the absolute necessity to do so. When we feel the full extent of these two opposite poles of sensation, the waters of the Red Sea open up and we cross it. Something greater than us intercedes. We are overcome with something. When you face the Red Sea, you likely feel cornered, trapped, hopeless. Likewise, when you're tried and convicted unjustly and nailed to a cross, your story should be over, says the mind. You're finished. But something intervenes if we allow it. It may be a change of consciousness, a shift in perception that keeps the facts the same, but the experience radically different. It may be a solution that we never considered, something outside our habitual thinking, which Eckhart Tolle has pointed out leads to a kind of reincarnation, the same negative thoughts leading to the same outcomes, and we get stuck, giving birth over and over to the same painful reality within this lifetime. Much of the world reflects that today. We write the story of our lives. The Ernest Holmes quote I was given for this month is, I think, helpful. Man, by thinking, can bring into his experience whatsoever he desires, if he thinks correctly and becomes the living embodiment of his thoughts. Now, the key word here for me is experience. Man, by thinking, can bring into his experience whatsoever he desires. It's the experience of life. We're not puppet masters, but we are storytellers. And we decide what story we're telling with the facts we've been given. We may experience our life as a tragic story rather than a story of overcoming. We love a movie where someone visited by tragedy or heartache overcomes that in the end. But so often the story we tell ourselves and others about our own lives is stuck in the negative. Or maybe it's just, okay, which is really a depressed version of tragedy, a story lacking a through line, like a novelist with random notes, but no coherent story at all. I think it takes spiritual discipline to remain open to a new chapter, a plot turn in our own lives, one that reframes everything that came before it. The Easter story works that way. After brutal treatment, carrying the cross with that crown of thorns on his head, jeering from the crowd, mocking everywhere, being nailed to a cross. Horrific, if you think about it. He's then stripped naked and maligned. It's about the worst you can possibly do to someone. It contains pretty much every nightmare you could dream up: mockery and derision, conviction for a crime you didn't commit, torture and humiliation, plus a repudiation of literally everything your life stood for. So that sounds like the end of the story, right? But it's not. There's, of course, a resurrection. However, before we get to the resurrection, we read in Luke 23:34, Jesus's radical words from the cross: "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Talk about a reframing. What does that mean to us in our lives? The Reverend James Trapp, noted Unity minister, has what I think is an enlightening take on this. He says our enemies and torturers, quote, push us to new levels of being and make us do things we wouldn't likely do without their assistance. Such people make us pray when we don't want to, or when we don't have the spiritual discipline to do it on our own. At such moments, those people who seem to be against us don't know what they're doing. They're actually making us become large for God and access dimensions of our being that we would not be able to touch without their help. So we forgive them, for they didn't really know what they were doing. They are supporting our own resurrection process and helping our life become fully supported by Spirit. End quote. The story of crucifixion becomes one of resurrection because of the shift Jesus makes and which we can make in our attitudes. Same facts, completely different outcome because of the story we're telling. Jesus forgives, and of course he was big on that. And Trapp says we can forgive. That when we forgive, we recast the villains of our life as helpers. This reframing requires work. It's not just something we arrive at instantly. We come to it over a lifetime. And eventually we know it as our new truth from within. I know for me, the challenging events of my past and the people who seemingly caused pain and suffering got me here. And there's no way to here without them. So the painful relationship that after 8 years got me to seek help. and then everything that came from that. The divorce of my parents, which of course was very difficult for a 9-year-old boy, but it meant I got to have 2 fathers in my life, both of whom contributed significantly to who I am and to what I value in myself and in my life today. There was a long journey to both of these realizations. Getting here in my consciousness took a long time, and it continues. It can take a lifetime to get here. A part of joy, I think, is releasing our enemies, our stories of tragedy, our enslavement to Egypt, if you will. Behind all of that is a God presence, a freedom, and yes, a joy. Joie de vivre, as we say. My talk title today is Overcome with Joy, which is a description of the disciples when they saw Jesus on that Easter morning. They were overcome. When life surprises us with seeming miracles, we can feel that way. But of course, I like double meanings. Overcome with joy is also a suggestion for how to overcome our difficulties with joy. I'm not saying we should pretend at happiness, but rather that the joy of life can act as a beacon, drawing us through our hard times, helping us overcome them. We could also say, while overcoming, have some joy, like overcome with a side of joy. In other words, laughter and joy are vital, especially during hard times. They give us resilience, helping us break through that serious veneer, sometimes getting feelings moving and just reminding us that life still has hope. Mother Teresa insisted that anyone entering her order have a sense of humor. When asked why, she said, "If they don't have humor, they won't be able to persevere. Our work is far too difficult. They need joy to last." So I'm not just making this up. Now, I could give a whole talk on spirituality and laughter, and in fact I did, but suffice it to say that developing your sense of humor will help a lot in life, connecting you to spirit and lightening your load. Perhaps you keep things near you that make you laugh, like a list of favorite comedy sketches with links to them on YouTube. Or you can ask your phone to tell you a joke. Just say, "Hey Siri, tell me a joke," or whatever phone system you use. Phones these days have tons of jokes stored in them. And so important, find people that you laugh with. All of this is part of that joie de vivre, the joy that is inherent in life, waiting for us. Now, in addition to Easter and Passover overlapping on the calendar this year, the Muslim holy month of Ramadan starts a week from tomorrow. A month later, after fasting, including fasting from negative behaviors and thoughts, after taking focus away from the physical world and feeling compassion for those who regularly go hungry. After that month-long period, somewhat akin to Lent, Muslims celebrate with Eid. And it's joyous, all the more so because of what they just went through. Eid is full of color and food and community coming together in joy. And during Ramadan, they know and trust that Eid is coming. I think that after a while, if we look at the history of our lives, we can realize that things turn out fine. We need not worry. In Matthew 6:27, Jesus says, "Can any of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life?" And then right after that, according to the Passion Translation, he concludes, "Refuse to worry about tomorrow, but deal with each challenge that comes your way one day at a time. Tomorrow will take care of itself. In other words, why not feel the joy now, knowing that overcoming is built in as we let go, as we feel all our feelings. We can feel sadness and joy at the same time because, again, joy is not happiness. It's way deeper. It's a sense that something much bigger is here, that life itself is miraculous. We can be awestruck. Rabbi Michael Lerner speaks of responding to our universe with awe, wonder, and radical amazement. That's a place I long to be, a consciousness to inhabit, the kingdom of heaven at hand. So I wish you a joyous Easter, Passover, Ramadan, or whatever you celebrate. And if you prefer, simply have a miraculous day open to the infinite joy that is waiting for all of us as we overcome and awaken. Thank you.